Subramanian Swamy's response was that the decision by Harvard University to discontinue his classes is a dangerous principle, he says, and he's joining me tonight on the News Hour right now. He says, quote unquote, it's a dangerous principle that stifles personal opinion. And he says, quote, I have been held accountable, you say, Dr. Swamy, at Harvard for what I write in India. This means India studies. Question is, to you, why should you not be held accountable at Harvard for what you write in India?
Well, because we don't hold Harvard scholars who write pornographic stuff about Indian gods and goddesses accountable in India. And secondly, this is not on economics. If I were to write anything in economics all over anywhere in the world, I certainly would be accountable at Harvard. But this has got nothing to do with that, and this is not new. Harvard has known me for 50 years, and all these 50 years I've held this kind of view. And in the emergency, once Mrs. Gandhi sent our ambassador T.N. Call to Harvard to say that I was a proclaimed offender and I had 18 criminal cases against me. Harvard said that's
Dr.
between
Swamy,
you and him in India.
Dr. Swamy, Harvard earlier stood by you after your controversial piece was published. But it was forced to bow down to student pressure because professors who had earlier backed you retracted later during the vote. Isn't that the fact?
That's not a fact, and these students are not from my class. They are from the divinity school, they are from history department, they are people known to have communist background. And they have organized it. That doesn't mean anything. It was a majority vote. I would assume that one of the fairest principles would be that if there's a charge against me, I should have been sent that petition that was sent to the faculty.
So it should
have been sent to me and asked my comments. They distorted everything I said, told lies about what I said, and they created an atmosphere.
So it's a group of Harvard students, and it's a group, and tonight I must say this, Dr. Swamy, I'm not going into details of what you've written. You have your right to have your point of view, but much of that material, some people may find offensive, some people may find defamatory, and therefore I am not getting into that. No, I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into
okay.
My question tonight is this, that you are now saying that all the students who removed you were communists. I mean, point is, this was a group of Harvard students known as quote-unquote coalition against bigotry at Harvard. They started the petition drive. 400 students signed the petition calling for your removal at Harvard. After Harvard decided to stand by you.
Over 30,000 students.
Pardon me?
Harvard has got over 30,000 students. So here is a question of 400 students.
So what's your basic argument? It's your personal opinion. You're saying it's your personal opinion.
My basic argument is that if you had a complaint against me, you should have sent it to me first to get my opinion. You did not do that. That's the first principle. It's called audi alteram partem in Latin. And you didn't follow that. Then you distorted whatever I said by selectively selecting passages and publicizing it. Now, I think these are all very unfair. It's very uncharacteristic of Harvard.
No, I'm not going, as I said today, I'm not going to go into full details of a very controversial piece which we wrote on July 14th, 2011. However, it's quite clear, I mean, from a reading of this piece, which I'm not quoting tonight, that there is an overall theory. There's an overall theory.
Yes, of course there is. This is my point of view.
It's your point of view, but Harvard
and I've held this point of view for a long time.
Sure, you may have a point of view against a particular religion or a community, but if Harvard feels uncomfortable because of your
not
views
a religion. I've never said anything against the religion.
No, aren't they? Isn't the university where you were working entitled to their own point of view? How is that discrimination?
This is not a question of university is entitled to their point of view. University is a place where they have to see whether I teach my economics classes properly or not, for which they have student assessment. And I've always got top rating. That's why Harvard has invited me year after year.
Here the second perspective. Here Harish Salve is joining the debate. Subramanian Swamy says today, judge me for my economics teaching. Nothing else. Mr. Salve.
Well, in my perception, Arnab, I don't think if a faculty or if a university feels that considering its the diaspora which studies and the widespread of students which study, people with certain sharp points of view and people who articulate such sharp points of view should not be allowed into the faculty? Well, it's definitely a matter within the realm of policy making. Some universities may be more liberal and say, well, we ignore private views. Other universities may be not that liberal and say, well, we will take into account the overall character and persona of the person who is a part of our faculty. It's entirely for them.
But that persona has not been developed overnight. I mean, Subramanian Swamy's views haven't changed overnight. I mean, this particular piece has brought it to the focus because it got published in a newspaper. But his views have been...
Well, that makes a lot of difference of how they have perceived this entire controversy, the timing, the content, the overall publicity which it has received and so on. And these are matters of sensitivity which, in my view, the people who run the university are entitled to take a view.
No, but here's the point. Subramanian Swamy, the charge against you was, and I'm quoting, that Harvard decided to strike out your summer courses because of your views towards a particular minority group, and it reasoned, no, you're smiling, but the fact is, it reasoned that Harvard University has a moral responsibility not to affiliate itself with anyone who expresses hatred towards a minority group. Now, they are not being irrational in their approach.
I didn't express any hatred towards the minority, and the best way to have found that out is to ask me. Send me the petition and ask me for my response. So this is well-known legal principle, laudi alteram partem.
No, so nobody else can have a point of view on...
this is not dawned on them.
But nobody else can have a point of view on what you've written?
They can, but if they are going to take an action against me, they should ask me what is my defense.
But you may not be the best judge.
I'm entitled to a defense.
You may not be the most neutral judge of your own writing.
No, but I'm not judging myself. I will be asked for an opinion, I'll send the opinion, both should be placed before the faculty and they should decide.
Is it as simple as that? I mean, how would the situation be different here in India? If today Subramanian Swamy would have been a professor at an Indian university, Harish Salve, and he had written something like
Arnab, normally the principle of fairness would require that if you are acting against somebody on the basis of material which you feel makes him undesirable, and if he is a part of your regular faculty, you would normally give him a chance to defend himself, as they say, as the old biblical adage. Even God asked Adam and Eve about their transgression. So that's what Dr. Swamy is referring to, which we also call the principle. It's beyond natural justice. It's a principle of fairness, that if you want to act against somebody, you put it to him. The exception to this principle is that if what that person has said is in public domain, it has been a matter of raging controversy, views for and against are sufficiently well known, and there you have sufficient material to act upon, and it's a value judgment which you have to make. Then sometimes there have been exceptions to the principle of fairness which would require comments. But if what Dr. Swamy says, that they have got not the authentic text of what he wrote, but they have acted on distorted views, then I'm sure he can write to them and tell them, look, you seem to be acting on material which is either incomplete or distorted or so on.
But you're not the only one, Mr. Subramanian Swamy. In 2007, there was a North of Native...
I'm not the only one. What do you mean I'm not the only one?
You're not the only one.
I've been associated with Harvard for 50 years.
No, you're not the only one. Mr. Swamy, I insist, you're not the only one. Let me tell you why. Because in 2007, there was a Native American scholar who was fired from a particular university for research misconduct. This was said. But the real crime was an essay where the person wrote that the 9/11 attacks as chickens coming home to roost, acts of war by the Islamic East responding to crusades by the Christian West. That's what I meant by saying, Dr. Swamy, that you're not the only one.
No, but you check up that he was asked to respond what he meant by all he said. And he said, I stood by whatever I said.
So you would not stand by what you said?
That's a different matter. They didn't ask me. I would like to know what they're attributing to me. They're saying I hate. Where is the hate? I'm talking about terrorists. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm saying that the Muslims acknowledge what is the truth, namely their ancestors are Hindus. That DNA tests now show that. Then I accept them as part of my family. I have Muslims in my family. I have Parsis in my family. I have Christians in my family. I have Jews in my family. Where is the question? None of them feel that I have hate towards them.
So as I said, I don't want to quote parts of your very controversial piece tonight. But there are several parts where you strongly propagate the view that it is only people of one religion who are the victims of terror. And that is a flawed assertion. That is a flawed assertion. Because the victims of terror have no religion.
I'm saying the terrorists who attacked Bombay twice or thrice, they are all of one religion. Yes, certainly.
Sir, you've talked about the victims.
The community is responsible.
You have said that
I am saying that the community is being progressively brainwashed.
Sir, you have said that the victims of terror, there is an attempt to target one particular religion as the victims of terror. Now, my question to Harish Salve is that a right assertion to make? And can a university object to that? Dr. Swamy, 2 minutes, please. Yes.
Yes, I think they see. I think
the point is
very clear.
Yes, Harish Salve, then coming back to you for last.
While Dr. Swamy has a point about principles of fairness, there are also exceptions, and there is a very famous case about a university which Lord Denning called the naked facts case. The reason why he called it naked facts case was because some students had danced naked male students had danced naked in front of the female hostel, and they were rusticated without a hearing.
Not dancing.
So Lord Denning said the naked facts of the case did not require any further inquiry. Now, if you have an article in front of you, you read it, you come to your own conclusions, and if you find that this is open and shut bigotry, then you are entitled to act on it. I am not commenting on the contents of what Dr. Swamy wrote. You are asking me a question of could the university have acted? Well, and these kind of points of view very strongly express that these are community-based, or communities are being targeted, or communities are being brainwashed. These are very dangerously close to the line, and sometimes they cross all lines of acceptability. And if a university feels, sorry, we cannot have people who have strong views against communities like this, well, it's a value call they make.
First of all, let me interrupt him. The university, it doesn't feel this way. This is a majority vote in the faculty, which normally doesn't interfere in department appointments. I was nominated by both the Harvard University summer administration as well as the Department of Economics. It was a majority vote, and it was not a question of somebody investigating into what I have done. It was just a petition which people brought in, and then they insisted on a majority vote. This could be turned around against them tomorrow.
A letter was cited. Dr. Swamy, which I'm sure you've read, and I want your last comment on that.
I have not read it because nothing was sent to me.
No, a letter.
When I was in the United States, Harvard stood by me.
A letter.
But when I came away here behind my back, this happened.
Hear me, sir. A letter was written. I can quote one part to you, and I want your reaction before we wrap up. A letter was written which was cited by Diana Eck, who was the professor of law and psychiatry in society. And now she cited a letter in which several faculty members had written to the president and the dean, and they described you. The last line of that describes you. It says, Swamy's well-known reputation as an ideologue of the Hindu right, who publicly advocate violence against religious minorities, undermines Harvard's own commitment to pluralism and civic equality. That's
her opinion. She writes a pornography about Hindu gods and goddesses. I tolerate it.
Now, that's again your personal perspective. Are you suing Harvard?
This is also her personal perspective.
That's fine, but
I don't know what she read in my article. Because it was never shown to me.
Are you considering suing Harvard for unlawful termination of courses?
Why should I sue Harvard? I deal with 100 crore Indians. Harvard wanted me to come every year. Last 50 years they've been inviting me to come and teach at Harvard. I have a PhD from Harvard. I've been associated with the best brains of Harvard. Now some person who's not in my department, who writes about India, I don't know who our links in India are, and she comes out and they all mobilize. That Witzel is another historian. Sogotov Bose, everybody knows, is a communist who doesn't even think much of Subhash Chandra Bose, who was his uncle. So these people get together and create a mob mentality.
Okay.
I think that was the time for it to be referred to me, or at least I should have been called to be present, where they should have asked me questions.
Subramanian Swamy, I think Harish...
That is the way an academic institution functions.
Harish Salve will also agree that if you look back at 2011, Subramanian Swamy has hit the headlines for right, wrong, or whatever reasons more than anyone else. And Subramanian Swamy, this is one of the two reasons why you're in the headlines today. I thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us on this latest controversy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Subramanian Swamy's response was that the decision by Harvard University to discontinue his classes is a dangerous principle, he says, and he's joining me tonight on the News Hour right now. He says, quote unquote, it's a dangerous principle that stifles personal opinion. And he says, quote, I have been held accountable, you say, Dr. Swamy, at Harvard for what I write in India. This means India studies. Question is, to you, why should you not be held accountable at Harvard for what you write in India?
Well, because we don't hold Harvard scholars who write pornographic stuff about Indian gods and goddesses accountable in India. And secondly, proclaimed offender and had 18 criminal cases against me. Harvard said that
Dr.
between
Swamy,
you and him in India.
Dr. Swamy, Harvard earlier stood by you after your controversial piece was published. But it was forced to bow down to student pressure because professors who had earlier backed you retracted later during the vote.
This is not on economics. If I were to write anything in economics all over anywhere in the world, I certainly would be accountable at Harvard. But this has got nothing to do with that, and this is not new. Harvard has known me for 50 years, and all these 50 years I've held this kind of view. And in the emergency, once Mrs. Gandhi sent our ambassador T.N. Call to Harvard to say that I was a...
Isn't that the fact?
That's not a fact, and these students are not from my class. They are from the divinity school, they are from history department, they are people known to have communist background. And they have organized it. That doesn't mean anything. It was a majority vote. I would assume that one of the fairest principles would be